Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast. Yes, it's a Monday, but now it's a fun day because we are the movie podcast that tries to answer a very difficult to answer question as we try to find one movie to represent each state in the United States. It's been a long journey so far, but it's not a journey that I've done alone. My name is Ollie Pettigrew. I've been a movie fan my entire life. I used to host movie shows for HBO and Cinemax back in the day in Asia, but I have now got a podcast that I get to share with my love of movies with two massive movie fans themselves, one of whom is currently sitting in his own video store right now. Will Hirsch, welcome back to the show, buddy.
I'm glad to be here, and definitely doing this intro for the first time. Not for any reason.
Got it in one.
Perfect. Got it in one take. And of course, joining us as always, he's from the East Coast. He's got incredible hair, massive movie knowledge, and a sardonic wit. Let's welcome back Ryan Sandler. Ryan, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Oh, it's so great to be here. As the saying goes, I like my ducks mighty, my men grumpy, and my plans simple.
It's very appropriate that you should feel that way because the state that we are attempting to take down this week is the state of Minnesota. Now, everything that I've ever known about the state of Minnesota is that it is cold. And these movies did nothing to dispel that notion. We have a movie where it's super cold and the only thing to do is ice hockey. Another movie where it's super cold and the only thing to do is fish or try and fuck Ann-Margret. And the last movie is about it being
His grumpy old man.
The last movie is about it being super cold and just murdering everybody in this small town. But it was a good week for movies.
As I was thinking about this after watching these movies, I was in my mind's eye, I was wishing there was more crossover. Like all three of these movies take place in the same town. All the shit's going on simultaneously. Like, if you picture all three of these movies, but as one movie, it's a much better film.
It's almost like a Tarantino-esque where all the stories are taking place. We're just missing that final scene where all of the stories come together.
Yeah.
Everything overlaps.
Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau are arguing while people are getting shot in the background. And Crossway Kids are playing ice.
Holy shit. That sounds awesome.
It does. I would definitely be up for that. Guys, so why don't we talk about the movies that we're bringing to the table this week? Well, Ryan, let's start with yours, buddy.
Which one did I pick? Oh yeah, I picked the Mighty Ducks from 1993.
92, close
92.
1992's The Mighty Ducks, Disney movie directed by Stephen Herrick, who did Critters, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Three Musketeers, big fan of that movie, and Mr. Holland's Opus. This guy's no stranger to making movies, entertaining movies, kids movies. This movie stars Emilio Estevez, Lane Smith, Josh Acklin, Joshua Jackson, though it did take me 20 minutes to notice it was him, and Joseph Summer. I haven't seen this movie since, I think, 1990.
Same, yeah, and it's so funny watching this. We always say this, but like watch this movie so much back then when I was like about the age of these kids, and then you watch it now and you're like, man, these kids are fucking terrible at hockey.
It's definitely
what a cold open this movie has too.
Oh, cold open. Yes, and it does actually. Yes, it tells the story of a wildly successful lawyer who's haunted by the fact that he lost in the finals of a Pee-wee hockey championship when he was a child.
So much so that later on he shows up, they pan across this. I mean, the team that he was on has never lost in like the history of hockey. There's just one second place banner, and his coach like, I really tried to get them to pull that down.
I really wish they'd take that down. Thanks, you asshole.
God, don't talk about the worst coach. Like, not until you get into the sequel where it's the Iceland team, right? That's the I feel like I remember that one more just because Kenan Thompson's in it doing a flawless, I assume, Jamaican accent. I don't know. I should have picked that movie. Damn it.
Well, I remember the second one being such a big deal because the first one was huge. And everyone. I mean, even now you see Zennials and Gen Xers and stuff walking around with not cheap Mighty Ducks hoodies and stuff like that. It's still got that brand.
I wish I would have done research, but that would go against the grain of this podcast. I feel like when the second one came out, they had the new uniforms, which were reflective of the Anaheim Mighty Ducks at the time.
Yes.
And I can't remember. I'm like, this movie was so big, they just decided to create a hockey team. They're like, man, well, here you go. We already got the logo.
It's funny because I remember the cool like duck mask,
the green one, yeah. Which I mean, I hate that logo so much growing up, but now I'm like, it's perfect.
It's a great logo. But in this first movie, that doesn't exist. That I was like going,
see, I meant the original, the one they're wearing in this movie.
Oh,
but yeah, you mean the second? Oh, yeah, the second one from for sure. That's an iconic logo.
Yeah,
they still use it. But
Will, were you even born when this movie came out?
He was born to this movie.
Yeah,
on the ice.
This is the movie. Yeah, this was a. You know how they normally throw the octopus on the ice? This time they threw a baby, and it was. No, I loved this movie. I definitely saw it in theaters when I was a kid. I don't think I've watched it though in about 10 years. It was probably like the last time I saw it. But this movie is great. I like the second one way better. The second one, this movie, it's clear that Disney was just like, I don't know, just give them like as low budget as you possibly can. Just put it out. We might put it on video, we might not. Let's do it theatrically. Then it took off, and the second one is like a massive difference.
They only had the budget for that one speed ramp scene.
Yeah.
so jarring.
Yeah. That was so bizarre. I mean, that's the thing. It's Will, you nailed it.
Yeah, you did.
You watch it, and I was quite surprised. I remembered the production value just being a bit better than it was, and I'm watching it, and I had that same. This kind of feels like it's straight to DVD. It's almost like they didn't quite know what they were going to do with it, and it's literally just Little Giants on ice.
Right.
It's almost exactly sort of like along those lines.
I couldn't.
Although this came first.
It did, but and this also, like you said, I mean, they were finding themselves. This didn't have as much of the charm that I remember it having. Like, it's still it's still great, but
yeah,
I don't know if
that charm is all in the second one.
Right. So this is what I was going to ask. Is it great? Because I watched it, and I was so behind this week, so I had to grind. I did 3 movies in the last sort of 30 hours before this podcast. Because I've got my mum and dad are in town, so we've been very busy, and I was kind of like speaking out loud to the movie, while my dad's sort of in the room. But it's like all of the exposition in this movie is very, very simple, and it is directed at 11-year-old boys. It's just here's what is happening. This is what's happening. Here's the stakes, and here's where we're going. Like 3 lines,
and it's all explained in flashes of newspapers.
Yes.
That way you know what's going on. Otherwise, you'd be fucking lost.
Pee-wee hockey is I was constantly. I think I was texting you. It's America's #1 hockey newspaper, and it's like it's only talking about Pee-wee hockey in Minneapolis in regards to this team. It was like no other news, no Stanley Cup news or anything else. It was just this
town, and you have to realize too that in Minnesota, like much like in the Friday Night Lights kind of way, that town revolves around that sport gathering. And I think in Minnesota, I mean, it's hockey, right? Like,
sure.
It's not beach volleyball, it's hockey.
Well, also when I was a kid, I think maybe Gen Zers and younger don't know this, but when I was a kid, hockey was like as big as basketball or football. Yeah. Like it was I think it was a combination of this movie hit at just the right time. You made a movie about hockey today, I think kids would be like, all right. Sure, but hockey was so massive when I was a kid.
Yeah. And and also compounded with like the uprise of rollerblading too. So you could now play hockey on the streets and you didn't need to skate on the ice. So that too, like when I was in summer camp, like we had like a rink that we'd rollerblade and play hockey on. I could not rollerblade, so I did not play, but they seem to like it.
Yeah. And let's also, like, for a second also call out the fact that this is it went on to have multiple sequels, but it also then during COVID we got the Mighty Ducks Game Changers Lego sequel with Emilio Estevez. Like they brought them back to make more. I mean, it's great.
I hadn't seen it.
They brought almost all of them back. Joshua Jackson is not in the final season. and it's noticeable. Like and you could tell they were building up to bring him in before they canceled it. So there's this big, because apparently there's a big falling out between Bombay and Charlie, and it's so the whole series is building up to like, oh, they're gonna like reconcile. Nah, never mind. Nostalgia's not that strong, I guess. Nobody watched it.
Yeah, I think it's the same way with that Willow thing that, you know, it came out, nobody watched it, and then Disney just pulled it off.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's unfortunate. I like Willow, so
yeah, I only got a couple of episodes into it, and I was like, oh, I'll go back and finish it, and then Disney's like, no, you won't. But we'll get back to that. We'll talk more Mighty Ducks as well in a little bit. We've got to talk about the other movies quickly that are also on the table. Will, why don't you talk about the movie you chose? Good one. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I picked, when I was looking through the list of movies, I'm like, hey, this movie has my favorite thing in the world, and that is old men being grumpy. So I picked Grumpy Old Men.
Hell yeah.
And I'm so happy I did. It's just, man, I love that movie.
It is a great movie. Grumpy Old Men, 1993, directed by Donald Petrie, who did Mystic Pizza, Miss Congeniality, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, starring Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, Ann-Margret, Kevin Pollak, Daryl Hannah. I mean, in this movie, it's just, you know, put Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau together.
Yeah.
These guys have got decades of experience working with each other. They're just,
their chemistry together is electric.
So funny, yeah. And they're so good. I mean, Jack Lemmon as well. Like, you know, I watched this movie, thoroughly enjoyed it. Really wasn't expecting it to be quite so well balanced and nuanced and have a little sadness to it. And as soon as I was done, I kind of walked out to my mom and dad, and I was like, that movie's great. That movie was so good. I really enjoyed it. Like, Will, what's your sort of experience or memory of this movie?
I saw this, I think my parents had rented it when I was a kid, and so it was one of those things where they put it on, and I was just watching it because I'm like, all right, there's nothing else to watch. And I remember being a kid and just loving it, like thinking it was hilarious. Like, and to this day, my favorite characters in movies are always the grumpy old guy who's just sour about everything. So I think this is probably where it started, where I was like, that's just the funniest thing in the world.
This is
I remember seeing the second one, but I haven't watched it, I think probably since 90.
Right. I was wondering.
7.
That one's on a cruise ship or something, right? Like they go on a trip together.
You're thinking of Speed 2. That's very similar.
I think the difference between Grumpy Old Men and Grumpy Old Men 2 is that the second one doesn't take place during the winter or something like that. It's more like it's actually thawed out. It's a different Minnesota, not one that we'll be talking about today. And the thing is, it's interesting because I kind of remember Grumpy Old Men 2 as well. Like, it's one of those movies that I think Grumpy Old Men blew up. I think I may have seen it. But I have this faint memory of maybe going to see the sequel in theaters, or maybe mum and dad went to see it and I went with them, or something like that. But I just remember, like, Grumpy Old Men was this movie that you'd kind of heard of, and it is quite good. And it's almost kind of like that, you know, Ryan's experience of a lot of movies is always the sequel first. You know, so Mighty Ducks 2, Grumpy Old Men 2, Grumpier / Speed Control, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that's it. Grumpy old men.
Any of the twos, you know, Ryan has seen.
This movie, like, it was popular even when I was younger, but in the movies I was watching, I'm like, I don't want to watch this. They're old men. I can't relate to that. And now I'm like, yep, this is for me.
Yeah.
I found my people.
Yeah, very, very much. It's a very, I mean, the thing about it, all three of these movies are just full-on Minnesota movies. It is, it's going to be quite the battle to see who ends up with the crown. In this particular one, I mean, it's so great. Also, what I'm forgetting, of course, is Jack Lemmon's dad, Burgess Meredith, as just
best character in movie history.
Constant comedy relief of just being
more of that,
drunk and horny the whole movie.
And then you get the cherry on the top as you get the outtakes at the end, which I honestly was not expecting for a movie like this. You know, it's you don't get that a lot anymore. The outtakes,
no,
like a comedy film.
I love outtakes.
I want more of that. More of Burgess Meredith saying horny shit.
You know, do you remember how Pixar used to do fake ones, and they were really good?
Yeah, for sure.
They would do their fake outtakes to just that. I always enjoyed that. That was really good. But this movie, sweet. This movie, funny. This movie, very well written, very well structured. Anything that's set up is paid off. Nothing. There's no loose ends. It's all there. It's all contained. And it's, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I remember Ryan's like, oh no, Ollie's crying again. I was like, I wasn't quite crying, but I was definitely feeling like the my heart was going okay, kind of like Jack Lemmon's heart was doing later on in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, that was a
Mine
heart
was-
attack, Ollie. We tried to tell
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Oh.
That's what it was.
But there is one more movie that we brought to the table, which is the one that I chose. A movie I haven't seen since it came out. I long remembered it being a good movie and a movie that frustrated me. And guess what? It's a really good movie that frustrated me because everybody makes terrible decisions throughout the movie. It's 1998's A Simple Plan, directed by Sam Raimi. I've never heard of any other movie he's directed, so I mean, he must be some new director.
Some kid.
Yeah, some startup kid.
One shot and left.
Starring Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, Bridget Fonda, Brent Briscoe, and this is like to the point of right before we started rolling. I think Will, before you joined, like Ryan and I were touching on the same thing that a lot of us kind of thought was, wasn't this a Coen Brothers movie?
Yeah.
Or did a Coen brother write this movie? Because it is so Coen Brothers adjacent. It's something you just can't avoid.
It really is. Until you get, like I said, those little glimmers, the certain shots where you're like, oh, right, that's definitely a Raimi shot. I think I mentioned one, like you immediately with the crows or the fox, like you just get these like jarring things. You're like, oh yeah, he's a horror director. Like, great. Especially now he's wanting to do the next Marvel Secret Wars, I think it is, something like that.
Really? Yeah. I can see. I mean, the thing is, it's a movie where Sam Raimi is definitely keeping himself in check.
Yeah.
And he has certain, I was waiting for the crazy POV shot. Just the crazy monster POV. The closest I got was we got a 2-second POV of the fox before the fox takes the chicken, which is the opening of the movie. The inciting incident is a fox, essentially. But this movie tells the story of Bill Paxton, his idiot brother Billy Bob Thornton, and Billy Bob Thornton super idiot friend Brent Briscoe. They accidentally, inadvertently find a crashed light aircraft in a Minnesota wood buried in snow with a dead pilot and $4.4 million in $100 bills. And it kicks off a simple question of like, should we take the money? They come up with, guess what? A simple plan. And guess what? That simple plan goes tits up within the first 8 minutes. Murder happens fast in this movie.
Yeah, fast. It spirals out of control. The one thing I will say about movies like this and movies in general, whenever someone finds like a large sum of cash, I don't think they consider the weight of this. I think I did the conversion on like what $4.4 million in $100 bills would weigh, and it was something like 970 pounds.
Wow.
And you got Bill Paxton just schlepping this duffel bag. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Well, it is explained that Bill Paxton is formerly the strongest man in the world. You didn't miss that.
Right.
It's inferred in the background. You can see some of the
I will say, like, I've never seen this movie. I didn't look. I went into this completely blind, which I suggest. But the whole time, after seeing so many movies like this since then, I kept thinking like, oh, I know where this is going. He's going to be like a Kaiser Soze type, or it's him and his wife are conspiring together, and none of that happens.
It's kept
me guessing the whole time.
Yeah, it's just all about what if like the dumbest guys found like a big chunk of money. How will they handle it? Very, very bad.
Yeah. Yes, just appallingly.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, had seen the movie, but remembered very little. I just remember thinking Bill Paxton was cool, Billy Bob Thornton, I remember it being really cool. But like, if you had asked me to say how the movie would go down, I would have said it would have been simmering tension that builds up until it finally boils over at the end. Where suddenly we're getting a shootout, suddenly we're getting this confrontation. Kind of a little bit like, what was that Christopher Nolan movie we did for when we did Alaska?
Insomnia.
Insomnia.
That kind of has that build before it sort of like really kicks off at the end.
Yeah.
No, man, this one, because people are just so stupid. The bit where Billy Bob Thornton, so Bill Paxton's brother, murders or half murders the farmer before Bill Paxton fully murders him. I'm watching you go, what are you doing?
Yeah. God damn it.
It's so insane. Just
The second that happens, you're like, oh man, how could it get any worse? And it gets so much worse.
It's so bad.
And it's like you're very much experiencing the movie. It starts off with a Bill Paxton kind of voiceover that never comes back until the very end. I'm sure sort of many people have forgotten this, but it's all kind of from his perspective. And you're kind of like, part of you is you find $4 million in a plane. It's clearly a bunch of criminals. You'd be tempted to take it too.
Right.
After watching this movie, you better believe if I was there with two complete idiots for friends, I'm just, as a random choice, I don't know, maybe you guys. You get that seriously consider killing both of you.
You get that kind of same armchair expert feeling watching a movie like this. You're like, well, I wouldn't do it like that. If you were smart, you would do it like this. Or if you're like watching a horror movie, like, well, I would just call the police or something. And you're like, you kind of get the thrill of them being so dumb that you feel so much more self-confident. You're like, God, I'm a fucking genius compared to these guys.
You do feel a lot of frustration for Bill Paxton. At the same time as also understanding that fundamentally he is a multiple murderer by the end of this movie.
Right, sure.
And honestly, the one big sort of question that never really gets addressed is his wife a sociopath?
Why is she so good at the crime?
She switches into like being like cool with crime so fast.
That's why I kept thinking, I'm like, oh, she's manipulating all three of them. She just wants the money. Whose baby is this now that I'm wondering? I'm like, I honestly the whole time I'm like, is Billy Bob Thornton gonna pull a Kaiser Soze? And the whole time he's this fucking criminal genius who's been having an affair with his brother's wife, and it's his baby, but
I mean,
I'm just a better writer.
Yeah.
Suck it, Coen brothers.
But no, this movie, the message we get from Sam Raimi is, if you live in Minnesota, you are dumb as rocks. Yeah. Sam Raimi's words, not mine. He made a whole movie about it. So
it's not just dumb as rocks, probably an alcoholic as well, and unemployed. You're unemployed.
It's seconds away from murder.
Yeah, at any point. I mean, so the body count in this particular small town, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people die, I think, as a result of this. You got the farmer, you got the drunk buddy and his missus, you've got non-FBI guy, and then we got the sheriff. Oh, and Billy Bob Thornton, 6. A body count of 6. And it does come with a great twist. But I'll tell you what, let's continue talking about it. Let's get started here.
Yeah.
So Will, I've forgotten, you haven't seen this movie before?
I had seen it. I saw it, same thing like you, like a long time ago. I remembered it pretty well. I didn't remember. I'm glad I rewatched it because there was a lot I did forget about. But I remember it being extremely frustrating, just being like, I can't believe how dumb these guys are. Like, just from the get-go. And every idea they have is really, really bad.
In his movie catalog, this was this before or after The Quick and the Dead? Because this seems like it seems like such a far cry from movies he makes. It doesn't feel like a Sam Raimi movie at all, like we've said, but it just
Quick and the Dead's 95. Okay. It's interesting. I genuinely would have put that the other way around because A Simple Plan kind of feels like an early 90s movie.
It does.
Instead of as where it is, it doesn't have that almost, this movie came out a year before The Matrix. It's like, you asked me to guess when it was made, I probably would have said 94.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, same. It's such a weird outlier in his career. I mean, it makes a little more sense when you realize like he and the Coens are like, they're really good friends.
Sure.
Like, they have movies, they live together for a short time.
So wait, Fargo was before this or after?
Had to be before, because this is like 98, I think.
Yeah, this was 96 was Fargo. Yeah. 98 was this movie. But I mean, it's kind of, you've hit on it a little bit there, Will, that you've got the Coen brothers living with Sam Raimi and Frances McDormand and Holly Hunter. They were all just like coming up at the same time. So
wild.
And you look at the sort of filmography of Sam Raimi running up to this, and yet you're right. You had Quick and the Dead 3 years before that. You've got Hudsucker Proxy, Army of Darkness, Dark Man, Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead. you've got
all bangers,
yeah,
all
and you've got
bangers.
a lot of Sam Raimi's just feel for the way he does things, and then following on from that, he goes through a little bit of a sort of like a he changes things up a bit, you know, like for the love of the game, The Gift. Do you remember The Gift? I remember that coming out in 2000.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it was like a very sort of straight up sort of like more movie. And then once he got into sort of Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, Drag Me to Hell, Oz the Great and Powerful, Multiverse of Madness, it's him going back to his kind of like
thank God.
His Raiminess. Yeah, I'm with
you. Drag Me to Hell doesn't get the love it should compared to like an Evil Dead, but goddamn, that movie's great.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't know if we mentioned this, but or if people are familiar, but Sam Raimi in the Hudsucker Proxy filmed he shot the entire hula hoop segment, like that whole scene is a Sam Raimi shot. Like he filmed that whole scene, which is so fucking cool.
Yeah, he's second unit director. So he wrote that and was second unit director of the Hudsucker Proxy, which is wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this movie, like, it's not Fargo, you know. No. But it does go along at a good clip while never feeling rushed. And when something does go wrong, it goes wrong big. You know, for example, we start with that farmer's murder, then, you know, Bill Paxton has to kill him and they stage his murder. Okay, great. But the way it sort of, the simmering building tension, especially with Brent Briscoe's character, Lou,
so
right?
Good.
Who's just always half a step away from, you know, being hammered drunk, hates his wife hates him, he needs money, and you just know he is the weakest of weakest links. He's a grenade with the pin pulled out, and you're just constantly waiting for it all to go tits up. And when it does,
fascinated because like he shows up at Bill Paxton's house and he's like, "Come on, man, I just need like one stack. Give me like 10 grand." I'm like, "What? Does he owe money to someone?" I think he does. Does he say that?
Yeah, well, he's just saying, right? You know,
he needs the money. Yeah, I need the money for more alcohol, and I hate my wife.
And Bill Paxton gives him $40. He's like, "Be on your way."
Yeah.
The movie does have interesting time jumps, right? Or is it like, I can't remember all of these.
I don't know the span of the movie because originally he's like, "All right, I'm going to take all the money. We'll wait till spring, till the snow thaws. They'll find the plane. By then, we'll know if someone's come a looking for this cash." And it's like the plan. It's so simple.
Because it's like, because she's very pregnant at the beginning with a bizarrely, obviously fake pregnant belly and boobs. At the very beginning, was kind of like she looked like she was made out of
pretty plastic. Jarring shot. I was like, whoa, okay.
It was, but then once the baby is born, and then we kind of jump into the future. So I was confused about the length of time of this movie. I was also confused about the length of time of Grumpy Old Men, as well. That I couldn't quite figure out how long.
Yeah, but I think that was all kind of like December because it goes from basically they have like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, right? Like, and then a little bit after. So it's like a season, I guess.
But yeah, so a simple plan. It becomes a very complicated plan after the one murder and the stage murder, and then murdering two more people and staging those murders.
Yeah.
And then like Billy Bob Thornton being half a step separated from, what was that famous character he did?
Sling Blade.
Yeah. It's like Billy Bob Thornton's.
Oh, yeah.
He's.
I watched this movie with my mother, and I also watched I also have my family in town. I watched. It's funny how this worked. I watched The Mighty Ducks with my mom. She enjoyed it. I watched Grumpy Old Men with my mom and my stepdad. We all loved it. And then I watched A Simple Plan with my mom, and the whole time she's like, "How did he end up with Angelina Jolie?"
This is
the whole time
exactly the segue I was going for. Is that
it's all she could think about?
Yeah, well, Billy Bob Thornton is like, the guy can be sexy, like, and he, and you kind of.
I've seen Armageddon.
Watch Sling Blade.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But like the movie Pushing Tin, where he's with Angelina Jolie in that movie, kind of thing, and he's got that just kind of vibe. And I was watching this movie, I'm like, are those his real teeth? Are those?
Yeah, dude, I couldn't.
Because
that's all I kept thinking about.
He's got like, and he can just play. The guy's got range, I guess. Is
he
what
does.
Say. But that is
he did this the same year he did Armageddon. Like,
wow.
He's like the government FBI or whatever.
The NASA guy.
FBI.
So good.
Does the FBI investigate asteroids? I forget.
Obviously, sure.
Whoever the government guy is, he's that.
The Federal Bureau of Investigating Exploration.
He got out of that one. He's like, I can't go on the Armageddon ship. My leg's busted.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny your mum said that because I was having the exact same sort of like going, man, Billy Bob Thornton can like if he wants
that dude must be hanging dong. Like that's the only thing I could think of. Like his dick has prosthetic teeth. It's the only logical explanation.
Sorry, I was slipping in my brain now that you're talking about penises to all of the outtakes of Burgess Meredith.
Slip it in, baby. Slip it in.
Different versions of how to insinuate that.
We'll have an outtake reel at the end of this.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be 7 minutes of Billy Bob Thornton dick comments.
Because so Billy Bob Thornton, the guy's got range. Like we were saying, he can in this movie he plays. It's such a bit of a wild card. He's like a little bit slower or not quite as educated as his brother. That does come up as a plot point that that Bill Paxton went to college and stuff, and they called him Mr. Accountant. Well, the other.
How did he not know that? Like he's confronting him because Billy Bob Thornton wants to, after they have the money, he wants to fix up the farmland that was their father's, right? And he's like, why are you fixing up this old house? Why don't you have all those? He's like, your dad was in debt because he sent you to college. And Bill Paxton has this like aha moment. Like, where the fuck did you think this money? Like, how would you not know that?
College
how did that conversation never come up?
Like it's like chicken isn't vegan. He had that same sort of like
exactly.
Look on his face Brandon Ruth.
It's milk and eggs, bitch.
It's like like his character in this movie like has the aura of like somebody who's like pretty averagely intelligent, like the average guy. But things like that crop up where you're like, wow, he's not too bright either. Like he's just so oblivious to anything that's not directly in his path.
Well, it's like there's a little bit touched on that right at the beginning when they're on their way to put the poinsettias on their mum's grave, and it's that bit where Bill Paxton goes, "Oh, somebody's been here," and Billy Bob Thornton's character is like, "Yeah, it was me. You don't have to only come one day a year. What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
And then and you're like, "Oh," and then immediately after that, Billy Bob Thornton goes to help his buddy spell their names in the snow by peeing.
Sure.
And you're like, these guys are like 5 years old. They're drinking and driving constantly. Our introduction to Brent Briscoe's character is he's just pushing his ass up against the glass. He's just that kind of
I'm trying to figure out in this simple plan, because you brought it up earlier, which character are the three of us in this dynamic? I'm like, oh no, am I the Billy Bob? Oh no.
I don't know.
My teeth. A huge hog.
I did just go outside to write my name and piss. So,
but that was just on the pavement in LA.
Yeah, it's not snowing there. Yeah, it's just
you were just marking the territory for the.
That's just to establish dominance. Yeah,
just all the neighborhood dogs were just like, "Is that a human doing?"
That's how my DoorDash delivery guy knows which place to leave the food at.
Yeah.
So not only is Sam Raimi being quite understated in this movie, so is the guy that did the score. Do you even recognize the music? Because it's Danny Elfman.
Yeah. Like identify, like this is one of the most average score. I mean,
it's just understated,
fine,
Yes.
I can't remember.
It's not an iconic score like some of his other films, but I do. One of my favorite shots in this, like we keep saying, like you forget that this is a Sam Raimi film because it doesn't really have all those kind of iconic shots or movements. But the shot where Bill Paxton blows Brent Briscoe's wife blows her away with a shotgun and she fucking flies across the room was pretty hilarious. I've still got that. Yep, there it is. I love that.
That was quite shocking. That was a good tension scene, that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Brent Briscoe's character is something of a loose cannon. He's right on the edge and he's drunk and they just framed him. At the suggestion of who? Oh, right. Bill Paxton's wife. Yeah. All of her ideas go back and put money, kills the farmer. Then it's like, get the buddy on tape, kills the buddy and the wife. Like she is the inciting incident for many of, if not all of the murders, because she's the one that also figures out that the FBI guy is actually Ricky Bobby's dad from Talladega Nights.
Oh, Gary Cole.
Oh, Lombard, from Office Space too. Yeah,
Mike Brady.
But like, yeah,
who's great? Who's great in this, by the way? He's like perfectly cast in this role.
Yeah,
so good.
He plays it perfectly. But yes, Bridget Fonda.
And if I remember correctly, the police chief in this movie is also the military drill instructor guy from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Yes. So terrifying, and also like so inept in this film, but great.
Yeah.
It's
just a series of bad decisions. But yeah, Bill Paxton's wife is like the quintessential like murder podcast genesis. Like she's, well, you got to get him on tape, and she works in the library, so when she pulls up that article, like, look, the money, it was a kidnapping gone awry, and the whole time I'm like, oh wait, she was the one that was kidnapped and she got away. I kept spiraling like, where is this going to go?
Well, there is a dark twist at the end of the movie, but honestly, I could have seen there being the extra twist of this woman being just a psycho.
Yeah.
Because you're right, like Ryan, you nailed it. She is the true crime podcaster of the future.
Right.
It doesn't exist, but she's sitting there, she's calculating, she's thinking about other people's motives, she's thinking about evidence, she's helping, like, her and Bill Paxton are not like, they are the protagonists of this movie, but I think upon more reflection are villains. I mean, it's a little bit Breaking Bad, it's a little bit like, oh, we've accidentally fallen into being criminal masterminds.
But they're so dumb.
That's the thing you can't get over, is just how dumb they are.
It's like there's no. Yeah, I mean, she is arguably the brains behind it, but even still, it's like she just sits at home all day and watches Forensic Files and take notes of like what to do. Is like, oh, you got to get him super drunk and get the tape recorder and have him act it out. And the fact that whole thing transpires is ridiculous.
Yeah,
but all her plans hinge on nobody reacting bad. So it's like, oh, you catch him on tape and confessing to murder, and then he'll just drop it, right?
But then, like,
dumb guy who like fights everyone.
And the way he subtly like has the tape recorder in his thing, you can hear it go click. Say that again.
Yeah. Can you say it into my jacket?
And then he takes it out after he's recorded. He's like, I've got your confession here. He's like, what are you pulling my leg? And what the fuck, man?
I know.
It's bad decision after bad decision after bad decision.
That was definitely of all the bad decisions, one that I was most mystified by. You get him on tape, then you go home, confirm you've got it on tape, then you make a copy of that tape, then you let this guy know when he's not armed that you're framing him for murder. I mean, for Christ's sake, it's like, what did you think was going to happen?
Will, Ollie's getting too smart. We got to take him out.
Oh, man. I was hoping it wouldn't happen this early.
Yeah. I was hoping we could offline this conversation.
I mean, it starts right at the beginning, doesn't it? Where they've just counted the money, why they're doing it in the light on the back of the truck on a road. The cop turns up, and the very first thing that like Billy Bob Thornton goes, "Y'all tell him about the plane," and you're like, "God's sake!"
That's the thing. Like, I kept thinking, I know I keep saying it, but I'm like, he's gonna Kaiser Soze us. Like, he's playing so dumb. The shit that he says and does is like, it's too stupid to be real. This has to be a ploy. But no, he's just a stupid doo-doo dumb. Like, that's it. Like, that's really it. And you're like, oh, he's just a dummy.
So his character arc is realizing that he is a bit of an idiot and doesn't have much to live with. So he's like, you know what? You might as well just kill me.
Like, and then he does?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What? Why?
And honestly, Bill Paxton, it's not quite, what's in... I mean, Brad Pitt...
It's not what's in the box,
Yeah, Brad Pitt thought longer about killing the guy that murdered his wife than Bill Paxton did about shooting his brother in the back of the head.
I was kind of hoping in that scene, because Billy Bob turns around so he doesn't have to see it, and I was hoping Bill Paxton would fuck that up and just wound him, and he's got to shoot him 13 times like the cow and Me, Myself, and Irene. It's just writhing around because he hits him with a shovel. Better.
He's just trying
Damn kid's lucky to be alive.
It's that's like the post-credit scene is Billy Bob Thornton's still there. Like, do you hear about the plane? I had the same thought though, because he shot him in the back. He didn't shoot him in the back of the head. And I kind of expected, Billy Bob Thornton to be like, I'm still alive.
Yeah,
I'm
like
still
Austin
here.
Powers style. Yeah,
Yeah.
God.
I'm very badly burned.
Still a lot of
There
pain.
is like a case to be made about because the plot of this is it's just like the title is simple, but having like a pastiche on this, like a Naked Gun-esque version of this kind of movie. After just talking about it, we'll write this down.
No, it would not take much for this to go into straight parody territory.
Yeah.
It's almost there without
Right,
dumb
but you know what? I mean, we're saying this, we're
You
pointing
just
out.
need one bear on cocaine and we're good.
Oh my god, yeah, cocaine snow bear. Yeah, cocaine polar bear. There, that's the idea. Write that one down. But no, what I was going to say is that we are joking about the bad decisions these people are making, and we're sort of having a joke and making fun. But at no point does it make the movie bad.
No.
So it's not a bad movie. It's not like because we've made fun of other movies where you got nonsensical decisions. It's Hard Ticket to Hawaii or Miami Connection and things like that where it's just bonkers and ridiculous. This is a well-made, well-acted movie that it's just you're just frustrated. You're
frustrating.
Constantly
Exactly.
frustrated.
Yeah, I think that's the sign of good writing. Is it's like it's not dumb things happening just for dumb things to happen.
Yeah.
It's like it's literally like, well, what if essentially this whole cast is just what if everybody who pays for the Twitter check mark these days, what were they like back in the 90s? This is
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you're saying is that everyone in Minnesota is dumb. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying Sam Raimi's saying that. Everyone's got to take it up with Sam Raimi.
Well, this is a movie based off of a book. It's based off a novel.
Oh, wow.
And so like the original script would have been a 4.5 hour long movie. So they've definitely had to kind of like, so you kind of wonder, like, I guess there's a bit more character development in between all the murdering.
What other dumb decisions did they cut out? I'm wondering,
I was gonna say, what murders did they cut out? Was it like a bus full of orphans happened to see them counting the money and we gotta kill all the orphans now? It's like how extreme did this go?
It's but it's the thing about like I was saying is that yes, and I'm sitting back on it and thinking on every decision they make, and it's always the wrong one. But it's like it never ruins the movie. And it honestly, and it does land that dark end. So there's a really dark twist. We won't spoil it because I'd say go in, but there's a moment at the end where you just go, no shit.
Yeah. You're like, I guess
I will say though, after having seen Hell or High Water, couldn't the solution be like that they launder the money? Like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure there's ways around it, right?
Yeah, but again, they're so dumb that that just probably wouldn't occur. I would have liked it an extra twist at the end where, and again, we won't spoil it, but I guess
why not? We spoil every movie.
Well, because this was it was a good one that I didn't.
It is true. It is true.
I was surprised. But I'm with Will. Is actually the criminal genius of his wife. As he's getting to destroy evidence, is suggesting a few things. I mean, I have been watching a lot of Narcos recently, so yeah, there are ways to launder that money. But it does go.
Not in 1998.
Right, it does.
I guess,
a little bit tipped up. When I watch the movie, I often sit and I watch the credits. I don't know why it's something that I do, but I always sort of spot names that are the same. And I did notice there was another Paxton. There was a John Paxton in the credits, and so there's a bit in the movie where Bill Paxton is kind of frustrated with a customer. You telling me there's 5 Mondays? Kind of that Mr. Schmidt. That's Bill Paxton's dad. Until Bill Paxton turned up on set, he didn't know his dad was in the movie. His dad actually wrote a letter to Sam Raimi saying, "I'm a big fan of your movies. If you ever find a place for me." So Sam Raimi kind of cast his dad as a little bit.
That's so cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And then who played the Bill Paxton boss in that movie? The guy who's always on the phone.
Right.
I don't think there's a scene of him in the movie where he's not on the phone, like not talking. I
think the only thing that could have improved 2 of these movies is if Burgess Meredith was in them.
Absolutely.
If Burgess Meredith was also doing a flawless Russian accent as the mystic Miyagi type in Mighty Ducks, perfect. And then
famous character Mystic Miyagi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mystic,
Mr. Miyagi.
not to be confused with Mystic Pizza. Yes, um, and also his boss in A Simple Plan,
Yeah,
or just every
or
character.
as Mr. Schmidt. Or no, actually, if he'd been the sheriff,
Oh, that's a good
Burgess
one too.
Meredith
Yeah,
as the sheriff could have been on board with.
yeah,
It's and a lot. Something else I noticed about this. So it was shot in Minnesota. It was also shot in Wisconsin because it's one of two movies that had a problem with Minnesota not being snowy enough.
yeah.
But
Fargo, right?
it's it's also Mighty Ducks. I think had no. I mean, Grumpy Old Men had a little bit of a problem. They had to delay it a little bit. Um, but is that A Simple Plan uses a lot of real houses, real locations. It's
Yeah, it
very,
felt
very.
very. It
The
did feel
only
like.
sound stage I think was inside the plane. And so, I mean,
Mhm.
even when it comes to shooting in some of those abandoned houses, they were saying, "Yeah, no, it was freezing." And
Yeah,
so
it looked cold. Like you felt
yeah,
cold in that
you
for
could
sure.
feel that there was one point, and so, like I said, there was a point where they weren't getting enough snow, so they had to kind of use Wisconsin. So they had to use a little bit of visual effects, and there definitely was one scene, I think, where they're talking to the sheriff at night, where behind Bill Paxton and behind Billy Bob Thornton, the snow. It just something about it. I was like, is that snow real? Is that actually falling right now? So there's only a couple of times, but outside of that, I felt that you very much felt like you were in
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Oh, for sure.
You were in
Yeah.
the forest. You were out there. You're on. It's like, and again, when you're inside these houses, they felt like real houses, which I thought. So it had that. I think you just never can beat it, and we've talked about it before. If you can do something for real, if you can put people in a real place, it informs everything that the actors are doing. You
Right.
know, you have no problem getting into character or feeling like you are that person. It's like the complete antithesis of doing the Star Wars prequels, where you're
Right.
standing, you know,
Right.
in a green room talking
Yeah.
to a tennis ball.
Just floating around space. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, I mean, anything else you guys want to touch on in this movie? But like, before we move on, because it's kind of like it's understated, it's great, it's well made, it's frustrating,
Yeah.
but it's nothing flashy. The music's not flashy, the cinematography's not flashy. It's just a straight up kind of noir
No.
with a dark, twisty end.
Yeah. I'm so glad I watched this blind, and I recommend our audience does as well. It doesn't get anywhere close to Fargo as a film, but if you can
Right.
kind of separate yourself from that, it's still a very enjoyable movie to watch, as frustrating as it can be.
There's interesting almost happens of this movie. Um, Between 94 and 96, Ben Stiller was set to direct with Nicolas Cage. I could see that. Then it was there's also Mike Nichols was looking at doing it, and like we like Mike Nichols, and it was he would have had John Cusack.
I can see
In
that
it.
for sure.
I can
Yeah.
also see
For
that
sure.
movie
Yeah.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
As well. But yeah, we got the movie that we got. I mean, how did it do? Let's look this up. Kind of. So
I
$17
kept
million
watching
dollars.
this. I was thinking like Bill Paxton is such an interesting choice for this movie. Like the whole time I'm thinking who else I would cast for him, and the obvious answer is Bruce Campbell for sure.
Mm,
But
Right.
I don't know. He's got that vulnerability in it,
it's
but he
got the
doesn't.
everyman element.
Yeah, but
You kind of root for him, even though he's doing bad stuff. You're always kind of on his
yeah,
side.
yeah.
I think that's that thing about Bill Paxton. I've been wanting to do a video about Bill Paxton actually. It's like, he's a legendary Texan. He's the only
Mhm.
guy to have ever been killed by a Terminator, a Predator, and an alien.
Mm,
Hell
Like,
yeah, he is.
what a
Yeah.
cool thing.
damn,
Yeah.
that's on his tombstone, right?
Yes, yeah, 100%. Gone too soon, unfortunately.
Man.
Yeah.
This was a $17 million movie that didn't make that back.
Yeah.
Only
Wow.
16.3 million, but at the same time went on to get a number of awards and nominations. I mean,
I thought you were going to say sequels.
a simpler
A
plan.
simpler plan.
A simpler plan.
But yeah, for the Academy Awards, Billy Bob Thornton, unsurprisingly, got nominated, did not win for Best Supporting Actor. And it also got Best Screenplay, based on material previously produced or published. I guess that became Best Adapted Screenplay in the future, because that's a
Yeah.
bit of a mouth. But it went on, a number of Boston Film, Chicago Film, Critics' Choice, stuff like that, and it did win. a number of them, like Billy Bob Thornton, especially getting a lot of credit, and this is coming off Sling Blade as well. But like, for me, I just didn't realize how much of a 0 to 100 Billy Bob Thornton was.
Yeah.
It's just one of those guys, you know, I didn't know this. I just figured he'd been around all the time.
I'm just now realizing too, if you watch, he's in the very first season of Fargo, and he's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's so good.
Yeah, this movie, I wonder if this did better. I wonder if this did better on home video.
For sure.
Stuff. I wonder if this,
because
that's so close to breaking even theatrically. I wonder if they started to make their money back on home video. This movie's hard to find, by the way. It's not really, the only place I found it streaming for free is Pluto TV, where I'm not even kidding about this. Every 2 minutes would play 2-minute ads.
Yeah.
It was like, it was so, it would be right in the middle of an emotional scene too. Like it'd be like Bridget Fonda's like got the baby, like, you know what we gotta do? Cut to Progressive Auto Insurance. God. It happened all the time. I was getting so frustrated.
Yeah, I remember this movie being more successful. I remember wanting to watch it because I heard about the buzz. I mean, it got 90% on the Tomatometer. It got 2 thumbs up from Roger Ebert.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was just overshadowed by a release window. You know, some other shit came out.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, there's nothing specifically about it. It just didn't. But I mean, though at the same time, you kind of understand why, because the only thing I remember, kind of like what you guys Will, like you said, is that all I remember it being frustrating, and that's the thing that I remembered. Like, every time I'd see and think of A Simple Plan, 2 things popped into my head. I remember that being a good movie, and I remember it being really, really frustrating.
Yeah. I don't even remember like a trailer for this movie. Like, this is such a movie I would have watched. But
I do remember the trailer. It's the bit where he throws the snowball that reveals the plane. Is very much kind of like, and I also remember the bit where he gets pistol whipped. That was in there as well. But like, yeah, it's funny. Okay, so yeah, and we've been touching on this now. This is for our completionists, people that do like to watch movies along with us. I definitely say watch it.
Yeah.
I definitely say watch it.
For sure.
But you're going to be frustrated.
Yeah. And also, don't watch it on Pluto.
Yes.
Don't. Yeah.
But
unless you really want to see what Flo from Progressive is up to.
Oh, I mean,
she's camping, by the way.
So I'll tell you what. Let's move on from this before we end up spoiling a twist. And let's get on over to 1992's The Mighty Ducks. So everyone like Ryan, Will, again, we watched Mighty Ducks back in the day. Everybody's like, watch that. Was this the movie you remembered it being?
Yeah, I think like we always say, like, back then I probably connected with the kids a bit more because I was their age, and now I'm probably closer to Mr. Duckworth's age. I think about it. Yeah, I might be closer to Burgess Meredith's age. Goddamn. It didn't hit all the notes that I remember. I don't remember Emilio Estevez being like such a prick. Like, they really lean into it. Like, he's like a hotshot lawyer and he shows up to the firm, but there are just certain things that just never clicked with me when I was younger that now I'm like, oh, I can kind of get it. But the punishment that he takes for getting a DUI is pretty insane. Like,
so he is being a bit of a dick about it. I mean,
for sure. Yeah.
But like, I only remember 2 moments from the movie. Like remembered them. One is where they tie the goalie into the and they just fire at him. Yeah. But the other one is, like I said, so my dad came and sat with me for about 10 minutes, and like it gets to this coaching scene. I go, ooh, take the foul, be indignant, wait for it, and then boom, there it is. Like, I told you. It's like, I always remembered that scene of like, he starts off like, oh, we want to cheat, and so
cheat to win. Yeah. But even the kid says, it's like, even when we cheat, we can't win.
Yeah.
Like, well, duh. That's kind of how that works.
Apart from that, I didn't really remember much about the movie at all. And it was kind of funny how small is Minneapolis? Because these kids are a bunch of non-homeless homeless kids who hang out as a gang.
You meet two parents,
Right? But they play hockey together, but deliberately
right?
suck. But they're also in classes together. They all sit together in class as well. So it's just
Right.
they
Sorry,
all.
do you not know what a team is?
I do, but I also know that teams don't like hang out at all
Do you
times.
not know what a movie is?
Yeah, this really does that little kid
It's
movie thing where
circumstantial,
it's
yeah.
like, not only are we all the same team,
Yeah.
not only do we all hang out together, we're also all in the exact same classes. Yeah, it's just it's kid logic that
Yeah.
when you're
But
an adult, you're like, wait, but no, you would be in a different. But in a movie, it's like, no, if they
yeah,
were in different classes, kids would be confused. So let's put
right.
them all together. Yeah, I love it. It's kind of
I
how
do
you
like it.
wish it was it when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Like you and your friends just had everything together.
Little Giants just did a better job at
It
kind of
does.
really fleshing out all of the kids, like having their individual, like, we talked about on that episode is like everyone gets a chance, like gets a part, has a thing to do. Where in this one, it's once they get Banks on their team, they're like, okay, well, we don't
Right.
have to do anything anymore because he's the best. And which is like, listen, I don't know hockey law, the gerrymandering to get like a player on your team is fucking insane to me.
I guess they had to bring the legal aspect in.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because Emilio Estevez, so he's taken that childhood generational trauma of missing a final penalty shot in the Pee Wee finals of this Minnesota Pee Wee League, and focused that rage into becoming a real hotshot lawyer that's never lost a case. 30-0, 30-1. Shut up, you're fired. But like, this is where then, because we got, I was texting that we get into the most bizarre question, like the character's motivations is his boss. So you've got a hotshot lawyer that wins at all costs. That is what most lawyer partners want in their lawyers. And this guy is like, look, man.
But he doesn't want you dancing around about it.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you're taking your wins, you go for the W, but you don't have to be a dick about it. I feel like you've lost your way. And you know what? I think it's time for you to take a break from the office to try and find your joy. But don't worry, I'm going to keep paying you. And because you've got a DWI, I'm going to give you a limousine and a driver. And I want you to just go out for this season of hockey and find yourself so you can become a better lawyer. And I'm like,
it's a simple plan. I see what you're doing. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You're like this, and then he's like such a dick about it. He takes the limo out on the like he's just a real prick. So much so that when he shows up to the frozen lake, is it?
I guess
I don't know, because the mother's terrified that the limo drives out there. He's like, no, trust me. If it's one thing I know, it's ice and limos.
Right.
And so when he goes to like put his hand in to pull out the piece of paper with all their names on it, the kids are terrified that he's got a firearm. Like, Minneapolis, what's going on?
Yeah, how dangerous are the streets of Minneapolis? And like, oh man, 90s, this is kind of crazy. For me, it didn't look like it was a lake. It looked like it was 6 inches of frozen water. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like it was a area designated for ice hockey. Like it wasn't, It was a park. It was a park. I don't know. I don't know lakes. I don't know hockey.
Yeah, but Emilio Estevez knows ice. But I did have big questions because if you've noticed that the weirdest character of the whole movie is his mute driver, who he's sometimes the driver, sometimes the videographer, sometimes assistant coach, always celebrating, never speaks once in the movie.
He speaks at the beginning.
Does he though?
Yeah.
I think he just growls at a child, and that was about it.
He speaks to Emilio Estevez, right?
Yeah,
because
at the
he has
beginning,
like
he's
some
saying something about his family or something, but then he's cut off pretty quick.
Yeah, he like does the thing where he like rolls the protective screen up so he doesn't have to listen to his bullshit.
Yeah. I only know that actor from one other thing, and that's from Lost. He's one of the others on Lost who kidnaps a child. And
I'm listening.
So that's what I remember him from.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing the Mighty Ducks, also known as D1 the Mighty Ducks, and Champions in the United Kingdom and Australia. I knew this movie is the Mighty Ducks. And I saw this in the UK, so I don't know what's going on. But yeah, the little ragtag group. You've got the 3 foot tall. Like, he reminded me of the kid from Die Hard with a Vengeance. You could still City Hall. He's just that little kid. He's got the leather jacket.
Yes.
You're amazed he's not smoking a cigarette.
Yes, the greaser kid. For some reason, yeah. And it's funny. There's like, there's nothing Minnesotan about any of these characters. Like,
no,
Goldberg's like from
more
Philly,
East,
or
like
yeah. It's so that's what I was thinking about watching this. I'm like, is this even set in Minnesota? Like, what does the Minnesota have to do with this besides the hockey?
Instantly opens with Minneapolis. It goes straight for we're in the Minneapolis Pee Wee League. It doesn't wait around.
Look at the mall that we're rollerblading around. That's I mean, I know it's filmed entirely in Minnesota, but it was just like who cares? They're like, this could be set in any ice town. It
was obviously nice though, because you've got the one sort of like slightly geeky, not nerdy, but like he's got his glasses, so it must be gingery kid that's like spends the entire movie. He's in the he's doing polish.
I liked that character when I was younger, but now that I've grown older, I find him repugnant.
Yeah, you're just doing Pauly Shore's bit, and it's like, just do that for the whole movie. Okay,
Haberman, what's his name in the movie?
It doesn't matter. Goldberg.
Goldberg's the goalie.
Goldberg's the one I remember.
Yeah.
And then what's her name from Wet Hot American Summer is in this
Marguerite Moreau. Yeah, but then she is in a relationship with another player on the team, which is very bizarre for no reason, right?
Yeah,
she's no icebox.
Yeah, no, she's not. I was waiting for her to be all icebox about stuff. I think honestly, maybe Little Giants just learned.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Because then they get the 2 figure skaters, the brother and sister, or like, you're a natural. But it's so just like breezed over. Like, none of these kids really get their moments to shine. It's all about Charlie and the relationship with him and the coach.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, Joshua Jackson's character, Charlie, like the one he's talking about, he's got, for the first 15 minutes, I was like, that boy / girl / boy, I couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl. And I was like, I think it's a boy. And then I was like, oh my God, it's Joshua Jackson. And Joshua Jackson is like, hey, coach, want to fuck my mom?
Mm-hmm. What do I look like, Rick Moranis?
Exactly that in a Disney.
Just please, come on, teach me hockey, but also come over dinner. I'm like, no, fuck my mom. That'd be great.
This kid is so horny to have a dad.
Yeah, so for like literally just like I don't mind just safe words or whatever, but just get in with my mom and then come and have dinner with me, and I can call you dad, right, dad, dad.
Makes it all the more heartbreaking in D3 when Coach Bombay goes, he's like, I can't go with you guys to college because I'm really an adult and I can't. I don't remember why he's not 3. But,
I don't think I've ever seen the third one.
I don't know if
it's not good. Yeah. it's literally they'll go off to college, they get a new coach who's a nothing character. It sucks. It's bad.
There's so much, like, for me, what's crazy is that it posits that in Minneapolis, much like in Texas, it's high school football. And this is true that if you are a Texas high school legend, and I know this because my brother-in-law was one, that still 30-something years later, people are like, oh, you know Alfred Black. Oh, wow, that's pretty incredible. But in this one, it posits that successful lawyer, because we have Russian Mr. Miyagi, played by Josh Ackland. I know him, of course, as being Russian ambassador from the Hunt for Red October. But he is like Russian Mr. Miyagi, that he's there sharpening boots. And like he just noticed Emilio Estevez from across the ice. And Estevez walks into this place and he knows it's him. Yep. Like, so he hasn't seen Gordon Bombay for 30 years, but he's like, I knew it was you. And these are your skates. And it's just like mystical.
Yeah. I've been holding these for you for 30 years.
Yeah, it's like we're going to right this wrong in your life. What are you talking about? I'm a very successful lawyer. I've got all
but you make a good point too. Like, had your brother, let's say, missed a field goal to lose the game, that would have been like, that's all people would remember. So for Coach Bombay, everyone knows him because he's built as everyone knows him as the shitty kid who missed the fucking penalty shot.
So the Hawks don't have a perfect record.
Yeah, which is wild.
But
insane. I thought instead of the coach, because I thought it was insane that the same coach was still around for a Pee-wee
and looks exactly the same.
Looks exactly the same
day.
Yeah, I thought the coach should have been the goalie that from the other team
from that game
lost to.
Yeah,
and he's got a wildly successful, he's dating supermodels and he's
white Ferrari.
Oh, yeah, you're just a hotshot lawyer. That sounds fine.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted. It was something like that.
Yeah, just walks around carrying his Pee-wee trophy with him all the time, and all the ladies like, "Oh my god!"
You cut to the other team, and all of their stuff is second place except for that one first place banner. This was the year.
But and it's like Lane Smith, Coach Hawks. So he's the coach that was the sort of father figure that teaches everything bad. It's like, just remember, if you miss this, you're letting me down. You're letting this entire team down. In fact, you're letting the entire world down if you miss this. And I'll just
the newspapers will never recover from this. I wish it would have cut to Gordon Bombay's dad, just I'm getting up and leaving.
This is why Bombay's dad died.
The wrong kid died.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of like a simple plan that Emilio then has to kill his dad. Because of the shit. It's like, no, just shoot me in the back. It's going to be fine. But Lane Smith, as the coach, again, I always know him as the senator from Air America. But all of his character choice is to, he's always popping his collar.
And chewing gum. Good gum. Good gum work.
Evil collar popper, this guy. Throughout the movie, every time he sees him, he's like, yeah, what's up? I'm a dick. It was, it's a little bit. There's elements of Karate Kid in this movie.
Right.
Like I said, you've got the guy that's like, put the kids on the line, like push it a little.
Oh my god, my favorite scene. So now, I mentioned this in the text thread. So now the Ducks have Banks, the Hawks' star player, because of some law. They now have him. The kids don't like him because he's from the other team. He's the new kid, but he's just so good at the hockeying. So the Hawks coach, he's changing the lines and he gets the two kids. He's like, you take him out of this game, right? So they do. And it's the most jarring scene. They cross-check him. The kid flies into the goalpost. First of all, those things aren't they're not stuck into the ground. So he'd be fine. It's like shoulder pads. He'd be okay. This shit happens. But the kid is basically paralyzed now. And the one kid is like, what did you do? And it's like this shot from down, looking up at him. He goes, my job. In the most serious way. I fucking lost it. It's so crazy that scene is in this movie, because it's what a major tonal shift. And you're like, wow, this team really is bad.
I've just spotted another random, quite coincidental Karate Kid crossover here.
Oh yeah.
But the star player Adam Banks, that due to redistricting comes to play for the Ducks. His actor's name is Vincent LaRusso.
Shut the fuck up.
Wow.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my god.
And then we also do have one of the characters, Eldon Henson.
His acting name is Jeff Miyagi, sure.
No, he's the one that he's basically, I think, the character that inspired Happy Gilmore. He just comes and plays football, just knows how to hit.
Oh right, yeah.
Hit really hard, and just.
I was the other thing I noticed. So in the beginning, when the Hawks confront the Ducks outside in that alley, it's the same fucking alley that he discovers. Oh my god,
same guy. Yeah.
That's so funny. Launching hockey pucks.
When these guys aren't ice skating, they're all, because it's the 90s, on rollerblades. Everybody is.
Yeah.
It's the main source of transportation around Minneapolis.
Well, if you're a kid, sure, yeah.
And we did touch on it at the beginning when we started talking at the beginning of the podcast, but let's for a second talk about that moment, the bizarre choice of speed ramping, adding cartoon sound effects for the kids getting it's almost
right.
like throat. You know,
it's very Disney. At that moment, I was like, oh right, this is such a Disney movie. I didn't think of that when I was a kid because I thought only Disney only made cartoons. They don't make people movies. And watching this, I'm like, this seems very out of place. So the kids are they're doing basically a poop dollar bit. They find a purse, follow a dog, load it with dog shit, put the purse on the side of the street, have $1 sticking out of it in the hopes that someone is going to pick up this purse and reveal that there's a poopy in it.
Is it a karmic retribution thing? Is that what they're doing? It's like, you know, well, I'm going to leave a purse, and it's like if the guy isn't a dick about it, then they're not going to get the shit purse.
Unclear.
It was a bizarre. I mean, I guess these homeless, non-homeless children that seem to just live on the streets and spend their days digging through trash cans in alleyways.
Sure. Yeah, what is he? He's looking for something to. They were looking for something to feed the dog.
Yes.
Oh well. No, I thought they were.
Yeah,
they find the purse, but they were looking for the can of beans. Oh no! He grabbed the can of beans to feed the dog so they could follow it.
Yes.
In the hopes that it would shit, and then they could then scoop it into a purse.
Yes.
Very elaborate, not a simple plan, mind you.
Yeah, quite complicated plan, and no one dies as a result.
You get the comedic bit where the guy falls on the plank and grabs his nuts. Like, hey, that's funny, right?
Yeah, classic.
In my mind, I'm like, these kids are terrible.
This is why I say this all the time. This is why kids need the internet, because otherwise they're going to go out and do stuff like this.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's all they do is play hockey and fill strange purses with animal feces.
Keep kids playing video games and online. It's the only way to keep them out of trouble.
That's where it's safe. Yes.
Yep.
And so the Ducks very quickly teach Gordon Bombay. Great name, by the way. I'm sorry, right?
It is a great name.
It's a good
name. It's the most. It's such a hockey name too. I don't know what it like.
Gordon Bombay. Yeah. But they refuse to cheat. Joshua Jackson. Then they it sort of comes around to, you know, the big secret to winning in hockey apparently is teaching your kids how to play hockey. Yeah. It's just making them practice.
Wild.
Fundamentally make them practice. And they were like, and they're like, Ducks, who wants to be a duck? And it's like, because it's after Ducksworth, his very kind boss that then donates a bunch of money, who then becomes a dick boss because it becomes a legal issue that it gets escalated to the, you know, basically to a negotiated outside of court settlement to do with where that player goes. And Emilio Estevez refuses to do it. And the guy's like, okay, you can either, because it's now, Bombay is like, it's on the whole principle of fair play. And Duckworth is like, either you let this kid play for the other team that he wants to play for, that his dad wants him to play for, that he's been playing for, or you're fired. And he's like, I'll take the fire. I'm going to make enough money as a pee-wee hockey coach to maintain my lifestyle.
Charlie, I'm moving in.
Yeah, Duckworth's character stops making sense at a certain point because he's sponsoring the team. He's put money into this team. And then at a certain point, it's like, well, this guy's my friend, so let's give our best player back to that team. Screw over the team I've invested money in. If you don't do it, I'm going to fire my best lawyer. He is like gone off the deep end. That's why I said in the text thread, I want the side movie that's all about Duckworth is slowly losing his mind.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Just going insane. And everyone at work is like, I don't know what to do. He owns the place. I don't know what to do.
Don't want to get fired. You know, I mean, I'm fired.
I've got it. We kill him.
Firing his best lawyer over a pee-wee hockey team.
We only have 2 lawyers. We talk about the name Duckworth.
Yeah. Well, Tammy, there's a Tammy Duckworth in Congress, is there not? That's
true. Yeah. There's a J.G. Wentworth, who I go to wherever I need cash. I call.
Is there a Scrooge McDuckworth? It's crazy. Yeah.
And then well, let's see. There's also Jussie Smollett. Isn't that the guy that framed himself for a crime? Like one of the other kids.
I did notice that name, and I was like, "Wait a minute."
That's a very familiar. I got a funny feeling that is the guy that framed himself for a hate crime.
Definitely.
That is that guy. But yeah, was he? I didn't. He's one of the kids.
It's one of the kids. Doesn't have many roles, many lines.
He's the sassy black kid.
They would. Hey man, they had two actual people, actually three people of color on that team, because he also had the goalie. I like the goalie. He's good. He had a lot of personality. That kid. I think he was one of the stronger kids.
Just don't look up and see what he went on to do after this movie, because it's very interesting.
What happened?
Don't worry. Everything's fine.
I wouldn't look it up. It's not important.
Everything's okay. Actually, I have heard he's doing much better now.
Yes.
His life has improved.
What was his character name?
Goldberg.
Yeah, he had a rough couple decades in a row.
Yeah.
But very recently, I've heard he's doing much better in life. Yeah. So that's good to hear.
As of January 23, he's graduated from drug court and is 3 years sober. So there we go. Congratulations to you. Sorry to hear about your struggles. At least you are coming out the other side of it. I was looking at some of the other random casting that could have happened in this particular movie. Jake Gyllenhaal, who was unknown at the time, but I mean, they guess they hadn't seen City Slickers.
That's right. Has Emilio Estevez?
Man. He was up for the role of Joshua Jackson.
I could see it.
The role of Gordon Bombay was turned down by Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez's brother.
Close enough.
So we can't get Charlie.
We'll take
Sheen.
one of you.
Yeah. We'll take the other one. Leonardo DiCaprio. I loved you on Wall Street. Leonardo DiCaprio. He went for Charlie Conway, lost out to Joshua Jackson, Juliette Lewis. She went for Connie, but lost out to Marguerite Moreau. And the original premise of The Mighty Ducks was much darker, with very little comedy about an ex-NHL player turned alcoholic who seeks revenge on his old coach by coaching opposite him. Wow. I like
it. Sounds like that movie was turned into something with a different sport, probably.
It was just the main idea stayed when Disney bought the rights to the movie, but they changed the elements, made him a lawyer, made him do community service.
Instead of addicted to alcohol, he's just addicted to candy.
They're like, well, let's take out all the darker elements. Let's make this movie make less sense, and it will be a big hit for us.
So, but now, now, just much like Winnie the Pooh and Bambi, the ducks are Creative Commons, so you're just going to get a Mighty Ducks horror film.
Well, look, actually, Ryan, you asked the question earlier, and I know you don't like to do your research, but I have found an answer to the question you asked. Now, when Anaheim Ducks were added as an expansion team to the NHL, they originally bore the name Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, also sometimes called the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, in reference to the movie because the team was owned by Disney.
No shit.
So that is why.
I knew there were six. I just remember there was something around it. I just couldn't. Back then, I was like, this is a memory I don't need.
Rebranded in 2005, 2006, shortly following Disney selling the team. So
was there a Mighty Ducks cartoon also?
There sure was. I know about that.
Wait,
that was like a sci-fi action cartoon.
Really? Right? Will, do you have the novelization of that?
Listen, I don't have. Oh wait, no.
But it was like one of those, along with God, I'm going down a nostalgia hole. It was like Sewer Sharks, right? Samurai
Street Sharks. Okay.
Street Sharks. Excuse me.
Goodness.
Street Sharks.
I like SWAT Cats.
SWAT Cats.
SWAT Cats. Awesome.
Oh,
Samurai.
Can we not forget the Biker Mice from Mars?
Biker Mice from Mars. That's the.
I will never forget Biker Mice.
As far as how much cocaine or meth or whatever, guys, I got it. Biker Mice from Mars. It's like one of those things you've got to roll dice and whatever the combination.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Great show.
Always had to have something cool like Vietnam vet turtles, or
Samurai Pizza Cats.
Samurai Pizza Cats, or ex-con hamsters, like anything that was like something aggressive with an animal. You had to combine it together in the 90s, and you made $1 billion.
If you get a chance, look up the YouTube video of Vin Diesel selling
Street
Sharks toys.
Street Sharks,
maybe the best acting he's ever done.
Yeah, that and Saving Private Ryan, top two. This is a random little scene. The courtroom scenes filmed in St. Cloud, Minnesota, were dressed up to give the courtroom a bit more of a hockey feel. This included adding small black circles that look like hockey pucks near the ceiling architecture. Instead of taking them down, the hockey pucks still remain today.
Do you even see those in the scene?
Yeah, I do not know what you're referring
to. All right.
And then this is something. Okay, cool. I was genuinely wondering if I was missing something. As Adam Banks was referred to often as a cake eater.
Yeah.
And I go, well, Dick.
Cake is delicious. What's your problem?
Yeah, it's actually well known throughout Minnesota. It refers to people who live in the city of Edina, a suburb of Minneapolis. A cake eater is saying a person who is so rich they can have their cake and eat it too.
Huh. That's too clever for this
sick
movie.
Burn.
Yeah. Everyone in Minnesota.
There's more Minnesota in it for you. I mean, that bumps it up a peg.
And this might be my favorite little bit of trivia. And I think he's not the only person, but Emilio Estevez was surprised at the popularity of the movie series.
Yeah, because he is not really trying in this movie at all. Like, I love Emilio Estevez.
Yeah,
I love this movie.
I cannot see Charlie Sheen in this role though. Like,
no.
I have a hard time picturing, like, I can, when you're going through the casting, like you go through the Disney, the catalog, and you're like, oh, I can see like a young Gosling in this movie. I don't know. I can't picture who I would have like see as the coach though. I can't picture anyone else. Nicolas Cage?
Burgess Meredith.
Yes. You got to get out there and plow them. You got to bounce the other team.
Yeah. Like, I also remember the Flying V being a bigger deal, and it's sort of like, I guess that's the sequel again.
What a terrible play! Like,
yeah,
it's like, it makes. Though I think there was an instance where a team did it in a real game. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like I'm like mandala affecting this movie.
Yeah, if the Anaheim Mighty Ducks didn't do the Flying V at least once, then like they probably were forced to by Disney. If you don't do it, you're doing it right now. It's just like I was saying, so it was shot in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah. It's got the North Stars, right? The hockey team.
I think so. And then it did feature it had one of the North Stars turns up later on. It was again, same thing that Little Giants does with the they
don't learn anything from them. Yeah.
No. Little Giants took this movie and just rolled with it, put football and made the movie better. This was pretty much the same budget as A Simple Plan. Made $50 million. So it made $15 million that made 50. So that's not like, it's not exactly, I mean, what's a big Disney sports movie? I'm thinking Cool Runnings.
Any Given Sunday.
Yeah, yes, yeah. But like things like, so that's not an insane amount of money. But like, let's see, D2 The Mighty Ducks. Let's see what they did for that one. So we had 15 million for the first one. The sequel, it doesn't tell us the budget, but the sequel made 45 million. So I mean, it's just a reliable little moneymaker, I guess.
I bet it did gangbusters on home video. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Because every kid I know, we all had it.
I definitely didn't. I usually have a pretty good memory of every movie I've seen like in the theater, and I don't have that memory for this one. But I'm sure it was on the Disney Channel all the time growing up, or on whatever. And I'm sure I watched it.
The thing is, though. All right, so kind of like I touched on earlier, that it's nowadays movies are made for adults and children. This movie was made for 11-year-olds. So like on my watch, I'm like, okay, it's very cookie cutter, but there's just like, it's not got that bit like Little Giants is making me get all emotional because that teeny tiny kid, he's running and his dad was at the business, but business is
you keep bringing that up.
It's really traumatic to me, right? But like
on another episode of Ollie's Crying. Yeah, this movie doesn't have those like emotional stings.
It doesn't
at all.
There's none of those moments. There's none of those sort of emotional setup payoffs. There's none of those sort of grown-up problems. Even the grown-ups problems are dealt with the way 11-year-olds would deal with them. They're explained the way an 11-year-old would deal with them. The courtroom stuff. So it's just, that's what I mean is, is like...
Was this like the first Disney, like again, maybe, I know we keep bringing up Little Giants, but that this one kind of walked so all the others could then fly. Like they learned from this and just added on. They're like, oh, this needs more of an emotional impact. And Just
I think
need
this is
more character
definitely,
development, right?
yeah,
Like
this
one of
was
the
like the
early,
template going
and you can
forward.
see it, and it's still like an
yeah.
enjoyable movie. Like I could see you watching this with your kids, and they would get a kick out of it. Maybe.
I think they're a bit old now.
Now, yeah, but
I
back
liked how it
when they
was like when
weren't.
you brought it up. I think I sent you guys the picture. It was like the description of the movie on Disney Plus, and it was like sports drama. I was like,
Mhm.
what?
What? Yeah. It doesn't
It
have
is
either
only
of those
Sunday.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's barely sports.
Yeah. I will say this is the one movie out of the three that doesn't have any snowmobiles.
No,
It's
no,
true.
just rollerblading instead.
Yeah.
Wow, this film was written by Steve Brill, who later sued for royalties. Okay, I'm fascinated by that one. But I guess my point, kind of what I was trying to get into is, I'm not sure I would say watch this movie. You've seen this movie.
Yeah, there are better iterations of this movie, like we
I'd say
mentioned.
watch Little Giants.
Yeah.
I'd say watch Remember the Titans.
No.
It's
No. I would not put Remember the Titans over this. Like, no
Really?
chance.
Watch the movie Goon with Sean William Scott.
Friday Night
there are
Lights.
way better hockey movies for sure.
Yeah. Slapshot.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
Just play NHL 94. I don't know.
That was really good.
Watch the scene in Mallrats where they're playing like Sega hockey. That's better,
Or Swingers, where they make Little Wayne's head bleed. Like there's a litany of other things you could do or watch, or just go outside and play hockey. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Telling you how to live your life. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you haven't seen this movie by now, I wouldn't say go out of your way to watch it unless you're a fan of this podcast.
I still like this movie quite a lot. I'm very nostalgic for it.
It doesn't hit the same notes for me anymore. Yeah, I am too, but even still, I'm like,
Yeah, 2 I think is a better movie. But I like this movie. I can't imagine like Gen Z or younger people like really identifying with this film. So I think this is a movie whose popularity is probably going to die out with my generation. But I still enjoy it. I still really like it. But yeah, definitely see the second one. Second one's, I think, a much better film. The second one feels like a real movie.
Yeah, I think that's exactly. I might give the second one a go because it just didn't hit any of that nostalgia for me. It didn't hit any of those. Oh yeah, or
I think they really they not that they like course corrected, but I think they just added on a lot of the elements that it needed. Like you get that more drama because the Iceland team is so terrifying, right? Like I think it's just overall a better film. Are they in the Olympics in that one? What the fuck is going on in that movie?
That's the third one.
They go to the Olympics?
It's something like that. I can't remember if it's like Junior Olympic. I don't even know if they can use the word Olympics.
Iceland versus Minnesota.
Yeah,
no, they're the United States team because I think it's the bigger picture. They're getting players from like all over, right? Because that's where Kenan Thompson's character, right, comes in. He does the knuckle puck. Is that the knuckle puck kid, or is that someone else?
I think
I just remember that was the thing.
The second one has got much stronger characters.
Which every
team dynamics are much better.
Kid tried. Like you put the puck up on the side and slap it, and then just fucking
10,000. I tried it. Goes playing street hockey.
Yeah, I still do it.
Yeah.
But
So yes, maybe your kids will like it. If you're gonna watch Ducks movie, maybe watch the second one. But much like the fellas pointed out, that this movie skated so other movies could run, fly, and soar, and give us that sort of like that fun sort of like scratch the itch that we're kind of looking for. I kind of felt a little bit still itchy after this movie.
One thing I will say, and then we can wrap this movie up, but when Gordon Bombay he announces the team name as the Ducks, and he's going through like the list of all the reasons why ducks are so good. Like he's like other animals are terrified of them. He never mentions how delicious they are. He doesn't mention their weird corkscrew penises. He leaves a lot out. Like a lot was cut from that scene. But if you stick around after the credits, the outtakes, you can watch all that.
He goes on for a while about
he does. It is, it's a lot.
And that's where the sequels came from. But there was one movie that of the three that scratched more itches than I thought was gonna get scratched.
Yeah.
It is, in my opinion, I think it's the best of the three. And it's no disservice to the other movies. It's just a great movie. Let's get into talking about Grumpy Old Men.
The original name for this podcast.
Yeah. We found out it was taken.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
God damn it.
But yeah, this movie was such a pleasant sort of surprise. I was sort of feeling, as was I going to feel on the outside of it? Was it just a movie for old people? And it definitely made me sit and think about my mortality. It sat there and made me think about my future. It sat there, I'm like, middle-aged, and I'm in like the second or third version of whatever my life is going to be. And I'm like, wow, what's mine going to be when I'm 70? What's it going to be? Where am I going to be? And like I said, it has this sort of nuance to it, and this little bit of magic. And we've got our manic pixie elf, or whatever the character is sort of like. But Ann-Margret turns up in Minnesota with her sort of like California/Swedish vibe, looking, I have to say, absolutely smoking hot.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
I'm not surprised all of the single men.
Halfway through, I'm like, is she fucking these old men to death?
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah.
Like, oh no.
It's but yeah, I mean, like, fundamentally, when it comes down to it, it's telling a few like stories. You've got subplots with Daryl Hannah and her fucking, she's dating Shooter McGavin. You've got Kevin Pollak, who's running for mayor, but also has kind of a thing for Daryl Hannah. You've got the unspoken whatever's going on between these two guys. You've got Jack Lemmon's being looked for by the IRS. You've got his drunk older dad who's been comedy relief, and then you've got the whole sort of chaos of Ann-Margret moving in, and they balance all. It works.
It's like anyone. Yeah, it's a miracle this movie doesn't fall apart from the weight of everything, but it holds it all together so well. Yeah, I had a smile on my face watching this whole time. I know, like I said earlier, like when I was younger, this movie was just like not for me. Like it's just not a movie I probably would have enjoyed it, but I just couldn't. I didn't get it. I couldn't connect these characters. Now that you get a little bit older, you definitely have a more fond appreciation for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some movies we do on the podcast that I multi-screen. I mean, for example, like on Mighty Ducks, I was looking at my
That's a movie I've seen. Yeah,
texting you guys and stuff like that. Grumpy Old Men and A Simple Plan, I wasn't near my phone. I think the only thing I picked up my phone to text you guys, like I was halfway or three-quarters of the way through Grumpy Old Men, going, I didn't expect this movie to be quite so nuanced and be quite so,
oh no, Ollie's taking another crying break.
Yeah. But like,
are those happy tissues or sad tissues?
Yeah. But like, Will, like you've probably got, because I honestly haven't really watched any of that classic old
like the Odd Couple,
Mathau, Old Couple stuff.
See, I grew up. My dad was always into those, so like, I was talking to my stepdad too. It was like, it's funny that they didn't just make like an Odd Couple movie. They took these two characters who have worked together for so long, Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, and just made a completely separate thing. But they basically play the same archetypes,
Mm-hmm. But like, same thing with Ann-Margret is I became aware of Ann-Margret, weirdly enough, only like a week ago, because I saw some old shot of Paul Newman. It was some old school cool picture on Reddit or something, and it had just this absolutely gorgeous bombshell, Ann-Margret, and I go, oh wow, she must be some old movie star. And then it's only when I was like, wait a minute, that's her. Wait a minute, it's her from Any Given Sunday, that it all kind of came together for me. So I guess, Will, you've got a lot more understanding of old Hollywood. You've seen a lot more of these sort of like these movies. I guess, what was your feel? What's your scope? What's your reaction to Grumpy Old Men through that lens?
Well, I think because I did see this when I was a kid, like I said, when my parents rented it. So this was probably the first movie I saw with both of them. But then since I'd gone back and I watched like the Odd Couple, did like 10 in total. I don't think they were always the leads, but they were just like in movies with each other. So they have been together for a while in film. But they just have such a fantastic chemistry. Like you could tell these guys are like best friends in real life too. Like they always hung out, and that just bleeds through the movie is these two guys are just
it's like Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner. Like it's got that same energy.
Exactly.
They've just been buds. Yeah.
Yeah, and this I don't know why I've always loved the grumpy old men in movies. If you have a movie where you got a character who's a really old guy, he's really cranky, and the one that puts it over the top is if they're missing a limb, then that's like my favorite character in any movie. Which is why I like.
What movie are you describing?
Last Jedi, obviously. A grumpy old man who's missing a limb. So, that's when
Walter Matthau was in there.
My favorite character.
This is quite very quickly. I'm looking at. So you said that they did 10 movies together. Fortune Cookie 66, Odd Couple 68, Front Page, Buddy Buddy, Grumpy Old Men, Grasshopper, Grumpier Old Men, Out to Sea, and The Odd Couple 2 in 1998. So that's like 30 years after.
Yes.
Whoa.
I remember seeing that one in theaters, being like, "Oh, this."
There is one movie that I haven't mentioned though that I don't think any of us would have guessed. They are both in it though.
Striptease.
No,
RoboCop.
It's 1991's JFK.
That's right. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think they share a scene together.
I don't think so either, because that would have been too funny.
I think also I may be misremembering it because I mentioned this podcast or this episode, this movie. Is it My Fellow Americans, where they're like, it's him and it was.
It's not Walter Matthau
because no, I think he had died. He was supposed to be in it.
Oh, I think I've heard that same thing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's James Garner.
James Garner, right? Which is a fun movie, but I was like,
you've talked about it before, and other people. When I saw it, I go, I kind of feel like this is a movie I might want to watch.
I remember it fondly.
It's a good setup.
Yeah, like, 2 ex-presidents on the run. Yeah. I think Dan Aykroyd is the president, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I gotta watch that again.
But
it's basically The Sentinel.
But yeah, but what you're saying is, what Will touched on and what Ryan touched on is that the effortless sort of tennis that's happening between the two of them.
Yeah.
You can tell at times they're riffing. You can tell they've made fun of each other a million times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got that grumpiness, that sadness. Like the grumpiness isn't just slapstick, even though it is. It comes down to, and they take an hour and 30 minutes to get there of, I'm angry that you stole this girl. And then, but then it got kind of like more to it that then Jack Lemmon's like, yeah, but my wife, she was shit to me. And it's, and if it hadn't been for that, you never would have got your wife. But
right.
this real underlying like tension that then, creates when Jack Lemmon creates some distance with Ann-Margret. It's just, like I said, there was a lot of complexity to this movie.
You make a good point, like when you brought up the time jump, because I was thinking that too. Like after him and Ann-Margret are getting too close and he gets scared and then he kind of pushes her away. And then she's just immediately with Walter Matthau's character, like immediately. But then he's on the jet ski with her, or the snowmobile with her. And did I say jet skis earlier? I meant
no, you did say snowmobile, don't we?
Okay. Just make sure. We'll edit that out.
No, yeah, it's like what's change it so you say jet ski now. I'm going to take you saying jet ski.
God damn it! Technically, they're called sleds, but I was like, what is the time jump? Because now it's like a month has passed, and she's just like they're with him. Are they fucking like?
No, they're not. I don't think they ever are.
Right? Because that'd be weird. Because then she goes back to I don't know.
Hang on quickly while I remember it. I do like the bit where, because it's really fun when Ann-Margret's just broken into his house and cooks him dinner, and then she's like, "We're going upstairs." And
she's got the knife. Yeah.
I like that. When he's like, "I'm not prepared. I hear we have to have safe sex," and she's like, "When was the last time you had sex?" He goes, "November 4th, 1979," or something like that. And she goes, "I think we'll be okay." And I love that she's like, "Yeah, get in here. Let's raw dog right now."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure.
No wonder he's skipping around in the morning.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm pregnant. He's no De Niro, but still, fuck, man.
But it's like Ann-Margret's character, like I've told you, like she's got that manic pixie dream character. But it doesn't feel contrived. It's more like it's in, in the autumn of their lives, right? And so Jack Lemmon plays chess against himself, and then everyone spends their days, they just go out onto the ice and sit in their little huts and fish.
Which now that I'm getting older, fucking love. I was like, oh my God, that sounds awesome. You smoke cigarettes, you drink beer, you put a fishing pole on the ice, and you fall asleep. It's great.
Yeah, and it's like, and it shows also, like Walter Matthau, as he mentions, was a TV repairman. Jack Lemmon, he did, teach, and they were both able to afford houses and a retirement. Actually, Jack Lemmon did not afford a retirement because the IRS is coming from it, and the IRS are such dicks in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But like,
no, he is just doing his job. Like,
yeah, but he's taking a bit too much joy.
Yeah, he's
sizing shit up that he's going to sell from this guy that's in hospital dying. He's like, fuck it, should have paid his taxes. But Ann-Margret is like, and she brings it up, is like this life is there to be lived. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I see this in people around me. There are certain people, I mean, like, so that like my mom, dad, they're still adventurous and go out and do stuff. But then there's the other side of it, is there are people that just don't do anything. And it's like, you're sitting there and you're looking into your own future in this way. That's what I mean. I had this kind of like, this movie got me thinking about shit. Like, man, oh my God, what if if I don't want to be alone, and what would I be like? I guess I'd be pretty grumpy in that situation,
Yeah.
But then
I can't wait to be that old and grumpy. It's gonna be great. It's fantastic.
But
I'm Googling how to ice fish.
But there is some good comedy moments of like when the guys get into their fight. They have their fights on the ice, which I believe caused Walter Matthau to contract pneumonia and delayed the shoot for like.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Because another shot in Minneapolis, shot in Minnesota during the snowy times, so people are cold. There's no, I was sitting there looking closely, going, that's not on the, that's not in LA with, framing out the blue sky with fake snow. That's just snow. Like that bit where him and Ann-Margret go and do their
the snow angels, yeah.
Yeah, the angels, they're overlooking, this town, though I think Wabash is not like an actual town. They use 3 different places to stand in for this place. But even then, like that's what I was really liking about this week, is that all 3 of these movies, no.
I was thinking that too. I'm like, this is gonna be a tough one. Yeah.
Minneapolis is essential for all of these movies.
Yeah.
But like for Ryan, I mean, like for you, buddy, with
our resident grumpy old man, sure.
Yes, as the grumpiest of the men here. Like just want a bit more of your take on this movie. Did you get the same sort of feels?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so sweet, and it's got so much, especially because I think we watched these in the same order. I watched Mighty Ducks first, and then I watched this one right immediately after. And the sweetness and the level of heart and care that goes into all these characters is really feel it. Like, and it's obviously a lot funnier, but it's such a great story, and I love the relation. Like, this whole movie is about relationships. It's the relationship he has with Ann-Margret. It's the relationship him and Walter Matthau's character have. It's the relationship with their kids that then come together. Like you said it before. It's like this movie is spinning so many plates, but all of them are so perfectly balanced.
Mm-hmm. And like, even as they are grumpy old men, you've got
you want them to fuck.
Yeah, no, but you've got that Burgess Meredith thing, being Jack Lemmon's dad, being 90 and being horny, constantly breaking them up, going, and calling them kids. Well, you're just a kid.
That's so funny.
That was my favorite part, is when they were fighting in the snow, and he's like, break it up, and Walter
he's trying to stab him with a fish.
Mr. So he says, like, Mr. Sun. I'm like, it's so funny to see those child dynamics come back into it,
and it all comes full circle at the end, because you get that scene where they're showing up, the limos are pulling up, and it's alluded to the fact that it's his father's funeral.
Somebody's funeral.
Yeah, you're going like, oh no, but no, Burgess Meredith comes out and says, like, get the fuck in.
Get in here. Yeah.
And then he fucking gets him with the fish again. It's great. And then the outtake of that is even better, because he just kind of like pops in. That's maybe the best cowboy switch I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's like,
what are you looking at?
Burgess Meredith, like, I burst out. I mean, he's like, what does he say? I think he's taking the old one-eyed snake to the, whatever
God
he's doing.
damn.
And it just then came up with like 10.
He's taking the log to the beaver, right? Something like that. They're all so good. So good. Even if, to our audience, even if you don't want to watch this movie, which you definitely should, at the very least, go on, find the outtakes on YouTube if you can. But definitely watch this movie.
Like, Will, you were going to say something. What was what you going to say?
I was just saying, like, I don't understand how Jack Lemmon didn't just die every single line that Burgess made. Every single thing he said, like coming out of his like shed to be like, "I'm just having my breakfast," drink it out of like a flask. The coolest. He's the coolest guy who's ever lived. That's exactly how I want to be when I'm.
He's a happy old man,
Yeah.
Even in his grump. But then it's also got so like I said, and it again, like Ryan was saying, the spinning plates analogy is a great one, because they're also balancing comedy with tragedy, and it's like you get that bit where Chuck, who runs the bait shop, who has a date, and I love that bit where the two guys are watching it go down through the window with their kids, and they're saying a line that gets finished by the other guy.
That was great.
Both scenes playing out at the same time. But Chuck having the balls to go and just like, go for a date. And he's sort of like, it gives him this, it's kind of the next day when the guys are being sort of joking about, you couldn't get it up because they're jealous. And he's just going, no, it felt to be young again, if only for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the twist of like going on, like within 5 minutes, his character dies.
Yeah.
And then it again gets such great sort of character depth, sort of like exploration of when such a happy Jack Lemmon, and he's really, you see this great connection with Ann-Margret, gets into it with Walter Matthau and feels bad and goes, all right, you can have her. Like, he goes against his own self-interest to let the guy that's grumpy against him get this happiness with this girl. But it all comes to a head, and it's bloody great.
This could have easily been like a by the numbers, like slapstick comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And though, like you said before, it does have these really great comedic moments, but it's all overshadowed by how much like heart and care that goes into all of these characters that just elevates this movie to just a classic, I guess,
Mm-hmm. And like the bit that's when I.
So mad you picked this, Will. Why you got to go make me feel the feelings?
Yeah, because when they go and they have that little bit of a sort of like confrontation in the bar, and like you've got Daryl Hannah trying to get them to reconcile, and then you get Jack Lemmon with the whole heart attack thing, and I go, oh no, don't want to be feeling what I'm feeling, and then you get Walter Matthau, and like it's just such a beautiful like balancing act. And then every time Ann-Margret is in the movie, it's just, she lights it up, and she's just got this look in her eye, and like the bit where she comes out, it's just so funny when she bursts out of her like sauna giggling in her little sort of like her little undies and just goes rolling in the snow, and you're just like, guys, I would be in love with her too. And she's just tearing around on her snowmobile, and she's just painting things, and like I love that little, you never kind of get it, but she's got the naked statue of her ex-husband, and just Walter Matthau keeps like looking at the penis.
So much so the movers trying to cover it up, like
it's just
awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I wouldn't have expected to, a Simple Plan. I was expecting to be my favorite. I thought The Mighty Ducks was going to give me these things, and I figured, all right,
three very different movies,
very
but so quintessentially Minnesota. But I think, like I was saying, I think what elevates this movie is the chemistry, the lifelong chemistry between Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. Like any other two actors, it would have been fine, but I think having the two of them in this movie is what puts it on another level.
So I'm looking. I mean, not everybody agrees with us.
Well,
yeah, exactly. Though I do like, so it's Karen James, The New York Times. I kind of see where she's going. Is the kind of holiday movie a lot of people are searching for, because it's cheerful, it's well under 2 hours, and it doesn't concern any major social blights. So it is something that it kind of just gets into.
Exists. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's not saying. I mean, I think it's telling a smaller story. It's telling into these small things about like life is for the living, and there's still more to come.
Sure.
In the future, and there's not. But I kind of I know what she means with that holiday movie people are searching for, because it kind of gave me a similar vibe. It was right around the time that he's having his heart attack. But it's making me think of
It's a Wonderful Life.
Movie?
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got that underlying sort of message of, family.
Life's too short.
And life's too short, exactly. And live it while you can live it, and be, see the things that are around you. And it's like with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, is like they've been friends since they were kids, even though they've been antagonistic to each other. It's like no, look past it. That I think, that's what it kind of hit a little bit for me. And I agree. I would say that it's kind of like, and it's cool because if we were to do a special, it's a Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's movie.
Yeah, it's all the hits. All the hits. Yeah. It's no Batman Returns, but
Right. It's not Batman. But we do have.
It does have a penguin in it.
Does have a penguin, exactly.
See what we did there? We got them. We got there.
Good, nailed it. So, Will, any other comments you want to make about Grumpy Old Men before we move on to figuring out the Minnesota of this all?
No real comments other than, obviously, I know my friends Michael and Lucy listen to this. Michael, when we're old, this is going to be our life. So just be prepared. We got to live next to each other when we're super old. Just take notes, and this will be our future.
Although we're fish in each other's cars. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start making plans now.
So, all right, guys, I don't know. We're gonna have to maybe sort of corner another hour for this conversation, because let's get into it. We've got the Minneapolis set, Minneapolis shot, Mighty Ducks, talking a bunch of kids playing ice hockey, living on the streets. We've got the Minnesota set, Grumpy Old Men, which talks about ice fishing and everything else, and is very, very Minnesota. And then we also have the Minnesota, and honestly, partly shot in Wisconsin due to snow issues, A Simple Plan, though at the same time, massively Minnesota. Guys, I cannot see the polar bear for the snowstorm in this one. I couldn't even think of where to begin. I do, though, have a personal favorite, but I'm going to open the floor to you guys first to see where you land. I don't want to tip the scales.
Yeah, I was trying to think of this as I try and think of this as I'm watching the movies too, but and I did think of it with the Mighty Ducks. I'm like, I don't know why it's so ingrained as a Minnesota movie, because I can see why. I shouldn't say that, but I can take certain elements out of it and just have it as hockey team does thing. So I can.
Yes. I mean,
I know how important hockey is to Minnesota.
It is, though. That's what I was kind of saying. Is like, it is. I mean, even as much as what's the movie Inside Out, that Disney movie, doesn't she move from Minnesota to California? But what she used to do is play ice hockey. Ice hockey is what kids did. That's like what you do.
Absolutely.
I'd say the only other place I think you could set this movie is Canada.
Yeah.
So I'm like, because one thing that we often find is what helps us in this situation is always one movie that I think you can eliminate. I don't think we can eliminate any movies in this one. I think it's a three-way race. It's not a two-way race. It's a three-way race. And Mighty Ducks starts off very clearly Minnesota. It talks about Minnesota, Minneapolis. It's always talking about it. And you trust me, I almost feel like I need to start counting. I'm always looking for, and I got a few
license plates.
License plates. That's your way to know where you are in this.
I did notice it in A Simple Plan. I was just like scrutinizing, like just making sure, because not all of us have the novelizations. Will.
Well, in the novelization of A Simple Plan, this is one of those times where, usually we kind of fall on like, well, what are the most like grounded, like real aspects of like a state that show up in a movie. In this case, all three movies are fairly grounded, and fairly similar in terms of their setting. I think maybe the way to figure this one out is something we don't usually do, which is actually picking which is the best movie of the three.
Ooh.
I was going to suggest that
Great idea.
like that, but I was going to suggest is putting ourselves in the perspective of a Minnesotan, because you're right, Will, that they are all Minnesota. So okay, I'm going to give you my pitch. All right, this is my pitch, and it came after like sitting there and thinking about the movies. That yes, okay, Minnesota, ice hockey, intrinsic, okay. And then a simple plan is like, being out there and it's like, surviving in that sort of being outdoorsy is very much a bit of it, adapting to the cold. I just think Grumpy Old Men is the movie that sort of brings a sort of the ethos of what it is to be a Minnesotan, like, so it's the dealing with the snow, knowing how to prank your friends because you use warm water, right? Kind of things like that. As you got that sense of community, everybody's out there on the ice. You get that sense of the small town when we look at it, and it's sort of like, granted, it's an outsider comes in, but I think it just seems to have this sort of, it shows Minnesota as a place of friendliness, of community, of being there for each other. Whereas a simple plan is a community of murderers.
Right. Yeah.
And the Mighty Ducks is, fundamentally just about ice hockey. If I was going to choose as a Minnesotan, I think I would go Grumpy Old Men.
I think it's such a great point. I'm leaning towards that way too, and I think, while a simple plan really captures the feeling of being in Minnesota,
yes,
it's more the scary kind of the way the tone of that film is versus, the aspirational feeling of, say, like a Grumpy Old Man. Like, you grow up, you're like, the last thing I want to be is a grumpy old man, and then you watch this movie, you're like, it's not so bad. I can do it.
You're like, I'm grumpy right now. All I need is just the age thing.
Yeah. Like, and you can almost see, like, if there was a picture of Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon younger holding hockey sticks, it'd be the perfect movie. I think there is that shot too, where they're holding
there's that photo.
fishing pole, right?
Yeah, there's that photo of them. Yeah,
right. Like they've been friends their whole life.
Yeah, she's like, is that Max? Like, yeah, can't you tell he's the ugly one?
Yeah. So I rented it on Fandango, which is like what Voodoo used to be. But it's weird. So the Grumpy Old Men picture that's behind it is two of them in suits fishing in the summer. So it was definitely a shot from the sequel that's being used as an advertising for the first movie. Found that somewhat confusing. But
weird Easter egg.
It's just one of those.
We gonna make 10 of these.
But well, what about Will? What about you? Like, on my theory, how do you feel about my theory?
I'm feeling pretty good about that because I'm also thinking, if I'm a Minnesotan, I'm like, well, Mighty Ducks is really strictly from like a kid's POV. It's kid logic in that movie too. That's probably the least grounded of the three. And then Simple Plan, I'm like, I would like it if people didn't think we were a community of dumb murderers who were just ready to turn on each other at a moment's notice. I would much prefer. I would feel like Grumpy Old Men probably fits better. With,
I can relate more to that.
What the community is like,
And it's going to leave you feeling good. It's going to sort of like, you still know Minnesota is cold. You still know Minnesota can be grumpy, and there's you've got to be a hardy person if you want to survive out there. But I think it's just such a happy, good, sort of good.
And it's not too saccharine either. Like, it doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's just a naturally sweet and caring film.
Yeah, it portrays Minnesota as a place where your neighbor's hot daughter will just sometimes leave her window open and she knows you're watching. Like, it's the American dream.
You can seduce Daryl Hannah with broccoli.
That's the message I took away from
what. I learned from this is, if you can pull the babe even if you look like Kevin Pollak.
Kevin Pollak's listening to this somewhere, just being like, "Wait, what? What is
also, I love that they glaze over the fact that he's just like the mayor."
Yeah, that was one of the time jumps that we get. Is congratulations on winning your mayorship, by the way. But that comes into play when he's able to get that cease and desist.
Right, yeah.
So the whole IRS sort of like background, that and that thing, and with Walter Matthau. I'm just, what? I love it. This movie is good. I mean, there's three great Minnesota movies.
Yeah, that's the takeaway, is that all three of these movies are enjoyable.
And kind of like like Ryan says, there are some weeks it can be tricky. There are some weeks where we're daunted by some 3-hour movie, and in this case, they all just kind of went down smooth. They were fun watches. I'd recommend pretty much all of them, but I'd just say Grumpy Old Men. If you're looking for a jolly good old time that's going to make you kind of think about things, I think it's also, I think, my favorite movie of the three. So we're going to do it. I think we're all leaning, like I said,
sure.
You can't argue with the Minnesota of any of these movies, but in this case, the movie that's going to represent Minnesota, at least until we can find another movie to take it down, is 1993's Grumpy Old Men, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, Ann-Margret, Kevin Pollak, Daryl Hannah, and Burgess Meredith, of course. I didn't find it. It's not really available for streaming. I did have to rent this one. Though, honestly, it was probably one of those movies I could have bought. You know, because I would love to watch it again.
Will's got the 4K.
Yeah.
There's only a Blu-ray 2-pack of both movies.
The box set, yeah.
But, you know, another thing that's quite interesting about Minnesota, I mean, you know, it's so surprising sometimes when it comes to particular states, is just how deep of a roster of movies there were for Minnesota. What were some of the other ones that you guys were touching on, outside of, let's say, the Mighty Ducks sequels?
I had two I was leaning towards before you fuckers talked me into picking the Mighty Ducks, which always happens. I was going to either go with, I think we talked about doing Fargo, and the obvious choice is picking Purple Rain, you know?
Yes.
I
was so wanted you to pick that. I've never seen it. And like I'm completely clueless as to what this movie is even about. I know nothing. It's just Prince is in this movie, and it made.
Well, you've only seen Under the Cherry Moon, right? So that's the Prince.
I'm actually aware of that movie, but I really wanted to watch that, and I'd love to revisit that. And then you have Fargo, of course. I mean, it's the elephant in the room, but it's also just like, let's explore some of the other stuff that's out there. Glad
it's too
we
obvious.
did.
Yeah.
You know, because like Fargo's almost like too much. But yeah, I mean, for like Purple Rain, Fargo, incredible options out there. There's some of those, like there's North Country, Young Adult, those movies that what's her name? Charlize Theron movies. Untamed Heart, I remember that movie.
I almost picked that with Christian Slater.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie since then. Since that movie.
I just, like I said, I remember two things from that movie. He's got a monkey heart, and he catches a hockey puck with his bare hands. That's it. That's fucking it.
Hockey puck again.
Am I wrong with? Am I misremembering the monkey heart in that movie?
No, it's not. It's not a monkey heart, isn't it? Just somebody else's heart. It's a heart transplant, right?
And that heart is from a monkey.
I don't know if it's a monkey heart. I also don't think.
I think what did it say?
Or maybe there's a line and like there's like a kid that says, "Oh, you can't talk to him. He's got a monkey heart."
Okay, I'm looking it up right now. I haven't seen it. Marissa Tomei, that's right.
Marissa Tomei. I have not seen this movie, so I will now check this out.
Ooh,
this was a good.
Marissa Tomei dates a guy with a monkey heart. I am.
Yeah.
It's just Christian Slater at the time when Christian Slater was like, "Oh fuck me." Oh, okay. Adam claiming. So he claims he has a baboon's heart.
Baboon heart.
Lovingly told him by a nun at the orphanage where he grew up.
See?
Yes, and there is a catching of a hockey puck. Your memory is accurate.
I remember that like from that was in the trailer, I believe.
But yeah, I remember enjoying that movie. And that's man, when did that movie come out?
It's specifically 90s? A power you get from having a baboon heart is to catch.
You can catch the hockey pucks.
That's
why
and you get Marissa Tomei. So I mean,
Planet of the Apes prequel. Yeah, that was it. And like, you know, I was watching Pump Up the Volume the other day. It's just Christian Slater in the 90s. He was cool. You had Gleaming the Cube. You had cuffs. You had everything. I think Juno as well. Juno was a Minneapolis movie. So honestly,
there's a lot.
Great, strong bench for Minnesota. Really looking forward to a challenge episode or when we return to it next season. So wow, yeah, that's cool. So okay, all right. The next thing that we need to do before we start wrapping up is figuring out where we're going to go on our next new episode. Now, before we do this, I will say that the next week we're going to be bringing back a classic episode, one that has been referenced many times on the show, because unfortunately I'm just going to be completely unavailable for like the next sort of week and a bit. with my mum and dad. I'm going to be off on a road trip. But we're going to be re-releasing, and if you haven't listened to it, it's, in my opinion, one of our best as we go to the state of Arizona. It's Wraithin' time. If you've missed us, you've heard us reference the Wraith throughout this podcast. If you haven't listened to the episode, 1, enjoy it. But 2, do not listen to that episode until you have watched the Wraith, which is available for streaming. It is free, I believe.
Thanks to us.
Yeah. Honestly,
we willed this movie into existence.
It ended up on Prime, did it not? Not long after we did it on the show.
Yeah.
So,
Bezos, huge fan.
One of my favorite t-shirts, my It's Wraithin' Time t-shirt. I wear it all the time. So next week we will be doing a retrospective visit to Arizona, especially when we talk about the Wraith and other movies. But I can't remember the other movies.
Yeah, and shout out to my buddy Richie who just bought the It's Wraithin' Time shirt.
Hey!
Yeah.
But after that, we will be heading to a new state, and as I've been doing, okay, I'm going to cross out Minnesota. Thank you very much. We've not got that many left, guys. We're doing pretty well. Let's see where we end up. Ooh, okay. The closest one we're pointing to is Vermont. Vermont, I don't even know where it is. I know nothing about it, but we will be, our latest state that we're going to be visiting is Vermont, which will be coming up in 2 weeks' time. If you are watching us right now, you'd be surprised how many people watch the show on YouTube but aren't subscribed. So please hit subscribe right now, hit notifications. It helps, and it helps get us out there and it helps other people find us. If you're listening to the podcast as well, as many of you do, make sure you take the time to just go and rate. That would be great, or give us a follow as well. Again, helps with the algorithm.
Don't be grumpy old men. It's a simple plan. Like and subscribe. Is that a thing?
You mighty duck.
Yeah.
We got it all in there.
You mother ducker. You can find us online. You can come find us on our Facebook page. We're getting a lot more interaction there, which is quite fun. United States of a Movie. You can also find us on Reddit as well. You can find me as That Englishman in Texas, where every Monday I also do a video about movies, which have recently been getting some great traction. 500,000 views on some of my recent videos, as people really want to get in the comments and talk about.
People have opinions.
They do. They got opinions about movies, and they love Ernest. I'll tell you that much. You can find Will on his TikTok and everywhere else as Entitled Willennial. Will does like to talk a lot about movies on his TikTok. He likes to dig into some old movies. He's got a lot of knowledge you really will enjoy. And Ryan, as always, you can find his designs online, Rhino Digital, R-Y-N-O Digital. You can find him on Threadless. You can find him on TeePublic, all these other places where you can find his not only designs from the show, but his incredible reimagining of movie posters. They are absolutely fantastic. Don't miss out on those if you are a movie fan. Which means at this point, guys, I just want to say thank you for bringing some great movies. It was really fun.
A great week.
To head to Minnesota with you guys. Can't wait to rejoin when we head to Vermont. But from me, from Ryan, and from Will, once again, thanks so much for sharing your time with us and being with us here for this episode of the United States of a Movie podcast.